Welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig here in Starshop Studio in Times Square. We have a celebrity pastor here today who's going to tell us about his new book, and it's called Friend of Sinners, Rich Wilkerson, although he looks like a model.
Come on.
In person, yes.
Dr. Robi,
Yes.
you're too kind. You're too kind. I can't handle it.
All the way in from Miami, and
Yeah.
I have to say, so Rich and I were talking before the show, and everyone out there knows that I'm Jewish, and I have to say that I love this book, and it really does not, it's not just for Christians. You really do follow your message of being inclusive here. What I liked about it is when you talked about the powerful stories about Jesus. It was like reading a wonderful history lesson.
Yeah.
And I really got a sense of knowing him in a different way. So that is the gift that you must bring.
Well, that's super encouraging that you're saying that.
Oh, I really mean that. It was almost hard to put down.
I love you.
And you weave in stories about your own personal life with the message of God.
Well, that's really why I wrote this book. I'm so happy that you're saying that, because literally, that soundbite, that idea is really the idea of why we wrote Friend of Sinners, because I think so often people have this viewpoint of God or of Jesus that is really so misguided or miscontorted. And I've just learned in life, the way that you view God typically dictates how you receive from God. And many times people have this picture of God that he's up in heaven or wherever they think he is, angry, upset, kind of like an evil Santa Claus with a naughty list and nice list. And I think so often when you actually start to study who Jesus was and what his message was, it was one of inclusion. It was one of saying, come follow me, and I will give you rest. And I think his message is one of rest and relationship. And I grew up in a Christian world, or in a religious world, if you will, and sometimes in that religious world, it just feels like it's full of rules, and it feels like full of to-do lists.
Very punitive, and I just want to tell the audience, too, that you come from a long generation of preachers, right, and pastors.
I'm four generations on both sides.
Did you feel like you had a choice?
Not always.
No.
It was either go to church or die. No, I'm kidding. No, I think we grew up in that, and I have the best parents in the world, but somewhere on my own journey at 17 years of age, I had my own encounter with God where it became real for me.
What was that encounter?
Yeah, I was 17 years of age, and I was traveling with my dad. He was speaking actually in Australia, and I was at kind of a conference or an event, and it was maybe the second day. And I'm an emotional person by nature, you know what I mean? My mom never called me a drama queen. I was more of a drama king. And but I was sitting on the second row, and I can't remember even who was speaking or per se what they were fully speaking about, but I just had this very real moment where I felt like the Lord was speaking to me, where I encountered God. And it was very, very conscious for me. It was like a conscious decision. And I just felt like the Lord was saying to me, how long are you going to run from what you know you're supposed to do?
Wow.
And I just made a big decision that day that I was going to serve God wholeheartedly, and I was going to give my life to really what I would call building the church. And that started a journey of where I'm at today, actually.
And you really have a modern approach to preaching, and that's what your church
Voo, you got it, yeah.
Voo
it's a weird name.
It sounds French, but you said it was short for...
It comes from just the word rendezvous, which just means meeting place. And then Voo, it was so hard to spell rendezvous. And if you Google rendezvous, weird websites come up, so don't do it. But everyone just, you can imagine,
pastor, right? Yeah.
Come to rendezvous church. What is that? Yeah, people are literally leaving by the droves. But Voo just became kind of a cultural thing for us, which it was just short. And that's what I like about names. Names, they oftentimes, they should have meaning that are beyond just the definition of what they mean. And so Voo is just this place where we've always said that you can belong before you believe. You can belong before you behave. And so we launched the church 2.5 years ago. And so much of this book, Friend of Sinners, I really think I was writing it as we were planting the church. And so much of it was the way that we viewed Jesus, viewed God. And it's been fun for the last 2.5 years to try to live out these principles and live out this message. And really see that people left and right have really found a home at Voo Church, and it's really special.
And that's really what it's all about. It's about finding a community. But yet you talk about, in your book, kind of the holier-than-thou sometimes approach people apply to God, or kind of this exclusive, punitive, judgmental idea that you really are trying to get away with. And I just want to mention, too, you married Kim and Kanye?
Yeah.
Is that right? We have a picture. Not
Do we have a
photo.
photo?
I was looking for a picture of you.
They must have. I think they photoshopped me out. No, I'm kidding.
No, you should be.
There I am over there in the very far right corner.
Every single wedding picture. picture. What's that about? Kim referred to you as somebody who's a very positive voice. Let me see if I can find the exact quote, but she basically described you as a positive voice that has a major influence in today's society, which I thought was a huge statement.
So kind of her to say that.
From her.
I love both of them a lot. They've become very good friends of ours. And
what was that like, the day of their wedding?
Wow, that was a special, special day, you know.
Yeah. How did they find you?
Connie and I have been friends for probably 4 or 5 years now, and that's a whole other story of how he just came to our church in Miami through another friend of ours, and we just struck up a friendship. But when it came time for the wedding, I was obviously honored to be a part of that special day, and I think anybody's wedding is a day that they never forget, and so whenever you get to play a part in that is always special. But I think for us, when it comes to reaching people, when it comes to giving the message, I think that methods come and go. You know what I mean? And I think methods should be relatable and relevant to where people are at today.
And you talk about reaching people where they're at.
Sure.
And you describe a powerful story where you gave a sermon to somebody who had a strong reaction, positive reaction, and was using kind of these swear words of excitement, and how you were so flattered by his response because
I thought I think it's authentic. That happens a lot in our church where you'll get done and I'll go out in the courtyard and be saying hi to people and someone's like, man, that was the best effing talk. You know, they don't know all the right language per se.
Words.
But I think that's the beautiful thing. I think that when we can meet people where they are, whatever platform. I love that you have this show right now and we're able to go to right where people are and talk to people, whether it's social media. Like, let's take the message to where people are.
Right.
And one of the cool ways that Jesus was ever described is that he came in grace and truth. So there's this tension, right? That he's full of grace, mercy, but he also tells the truth. Yet what I like is the order. Grace comes first. And I think what happens sometimes in the religious, faith-based world is that we try to correct people before we connect with people.
Right.
And I want to be a person who actually makes a connection and builds a relationship. And then we can talk about where you're at with truth and where do you find this to be or that to be.
I related to your message also as a therapist.
Come on.
Because as a therapist, we take patients where they're at.
Yeah.
Right? And it really is all about the relationship, because if you have the right relationship, you can say anything.
There you go.
And you mentioned in your book, the reason to do better is not because of God's judgment, but just to live a healthier life.
Yeah.
Which I really love that message, because I think people can forget that and then maybe lose sight of how having a relationship with God can serve them or be helpful to them. Perhaps they feel unlucky or victimized by life. What do you say to the person like that? And you've had your own trials and tribulations, which we will get to as well. Yeah.
Well, I think for me, a big revelation for me is that I don't do for God to get from God. I've already gotten from God, and therefore now I can do. So meaning I'm living my life not for a blessing, but I'm living my life from a blessing. And that's an important, I think, paradigm to take, that God already accepts you. God approves of you. So now, therefore, since I have his acceptance, now I'm free to perform, free to behave, whatever these words are you want to come up with. I think many times it's backwards for people. People go, let me do this to win God's approval in our life. And that just seems like you're bound. That seems like you're oppressed. That seems like you're always trying to do something to prove to God that you do care about him or that you do love him. And the reality of it is, I think that he loves us right where we are.
Do you think, because a lot of people struggle with self-esteem.
Yeah.
And the ability to like themselves. So it must be very hard for the person who's in that space, which is all of us at times, to believe that someone can love us unconditionally, right? So how do you help people get to that space?
Totally.
Say, hey, you may not love yourself as is.
Right.
You may be a work in progress, but to have a relationship with a higher being, they already do.
And I think that's, once again, the heart of where we're at with this book is that getting people to see that and discovering that. And I think that's the message of what Jesus came with. And we see through his actions, we see through his death on a cross, we see the way that God has loved us, pursued us from day one. And I think a revelation of that, an experience of that, that's where you find wholeness and completeness. And therefore, once you're whole and healthy, now you're in a place to love other people, to truly love yourself. And I think people, they don't realize that. We're oftentimes we're pouring out of a bucket that's got holes in it.
Yes.
And if you leak, it's hard to love when you leak. It's hard to lead when you leak. And so you've got to figure out what is the thing that's going to put you back together. For me, that is God. That is God's love. Bible says that God is love. Well, what is love? We know that love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it's not self-seeking, it's not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. That's who God is.
Nature.
Right.
I love that you say, hey, listen, we're all sinners.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to, we all have a primitive drive in nature.
Yeah.
And we all have to kind of work towards being better and socializing ourselves out of that.
It's so funny you said it, because I was telling a friend of mine who isn't really a church goer or a follower. He's on the fence of where he's at with God, but I was saying, I'm writing this book called Friend of Sinners. He goes, bro, you can't write that. All your friends will be so mad at you. I go, no, the book's not about me. The book's about God, and that we are all sinners. That God.
So funny.
How funny is that? He thought I was saying that. I was like, no.
He thought you were outing
people.
Yeah.
He thought I was like, he's like, you can't write that. Your friends will get so mad at you.
That's hilarious. But I get it from a psychological perspective, and it's really on point.
That's where we start, you know.
You talk about a couple of things, and you weave in your personal story so beautifully in this book, where how we can miss the message, and you talk about a surprise birthday that your wife coordinated
Oh my
for
gosh.
you. I really love that story. I thought it was
my
so
poor
funny.
wife.
And then you talk about the airport story about not recognizing almost what we're entitled to. Can you tell me a little bit about both those stories?
Well, number one, my wife and I celebrated 11 years of marriage this past summer.
How
and
exciting.
We've been hanging out since we were 17 years of age.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Did you meet in high school?
met our senior year. She lived in Louisiana, lived in Miami. We met in Nashville, Tennessee. Long, crazy story, but fell in love with her. And we just had, today, 7 weeks. 7 weeks ago, we had our first child.
Oh
so
my goodness.
Wyatt Wesley Wilkerson, WWW, those are strong initials, World Wide Web.
If he's going to be a pastor. I guess we'll see.
Well, whatever he wants. He can have whatever he wants. I love this kid so much.
Now, you had a hard time conceiving, and you're very honest about this. There must have been times that it was hard to have faith or hard to not feel victimized by your circumstances, and I'm sure you would see people have babies easily and effortlessly, and maybe some people who you felt maybe shouldn't be parents.
Yeah.
How did you deal with that on a personal level?
I think it's going back to what we're talking about once again today. I think discovering, okay, my life doesn't start with a child, and my life's not complete with a child. I'm already complete and whole in God. And now it's out of that place that I have faith and I believe. And my wife and I actually really did come to a place where we said, whether we have a child or not, we're going to live satisfied, fulfilled, happy lives. We are blessed people. I think gratitude, my grandpa used to always say, the things you appreciate tend to get better.
Yes.
The things you depreciate tend to get worse.
True.
And so I think having a heart of gratitude and thankfulness is going to always propel you to the next season. But we tried for many years, and we feel so blessed because God did answer our prayers.
I'm so excited for you.
We did have this miraculous baby, and I didn't even know what living was until this guy came into our life. And so we are so thankful. But I think it's a journey, and I think the reason why we shared that journey is because I've learned that people, they don't connect to your wins and your successes. They connect to your pain. They connect to your valleys. And this book, why does God care more about relationship than perfection? The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. You don't have to be the best today. You just got to get better today. You got to grow and take steps. And I think that's part of the journey.
It's not necessarily to receive God's love, but it's so that you in general, can live a healthier, happier existence so that you can be in a place of giving to others.
Yeah.
I
think whatever you're full of is what you're going to be led by. I talk about that in the book. And so for me, I want to be full of God's love. Therefore, I'm led by it. You were asking me about how we miss that message sometimes.
Message, yes.
Well, my wife, 11 years of marriage, she's the best in the world, but she was many years ago, I think it was my 28th birthday or something, she had gotten us tickets to the Kings of Leon concert, which I'm a huge Kings of Leon fan, one of the greatest bands. And so she had prepped this out weeks in advance. She had gotten me this card. I opened it up and it's we're going to Kings of Leon. And she's like, it's at the Bank Atlantic Center. And we're pumped. So it's a whole lead up, it's 7 days out. We're singing music. We're telling everybody at the office, we're going, you're not, We go to this great dinner for our birthday. We're flirting, have the best time. Here we go. So we start driving to the Bank Atlantic Center. We pull into the Bank Atlantic Center, only discover that the parking lot is fully empty. Nobody is there. I go, let me see the tickets for the first time. I look at the tickets. It's not the Bank Atlantic Center. It's the Bank United Center.
Oh.
One's in deep Coral Gables. The other one's in Fort Lauderdale. It's about an hour distance. We totally missed the concert, but I use it as an illustration to say it can be dangerous when you miss the message.
Yeah.
It can lead you to the wrong places. And I think a lot of people have missed the message about God. They think God is out to get them. They think God is angry with them.
Wow.
And because of that, that's detoured them. A lot of them avoid church, avoid faith altogether. And maybe it's just because they've missed the message. They don't actually know the message that God is the friend of sinners. He's the friend of broken, hurting people. And he hasn't
that's
come.
a message you point out.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a good history lesson as well when you describe the final dinner.
Yeah.
And Jesus talking to a friend who really is a frenemy. They call them frenemies,
You really
right?
read this book.
I
really
did.
love
I
you.
really enjoyed it.
You just got it.
It was like really gripping stories, just so you know.
I love you.
And you talk about really the grace, even in the face of people who are enemies. So
I think the whole what you're talking about is what the whole book, how the whole concept came together, because. And we can just spoil it for people. I think it's fun because I think it's a cool thought.
It's a spoiler.
It's just that Judas Iscariot, who, whether you follow Jesus or not, but a lot of
Yeah.
us know that name. He was one that betrayed Jesus. He was one
Right.
of Jesus' 12 disciples. Yet as Judas comes into the garden that night to betray Jesus with the Roman soldiers, and as he's there, the Bible says that he kisses Jesus on the cheek. And then what does Jesus say back to Judas? The last words Judas ever hears Jesus say is, he says, "Friend, do what you came to do."
Oof.
And I just love that concept that even while Judas is betraying Jesus, Jesus is still saying, "You're my friend."
Yeah.
What haunting word. The
Talk
last
about
thing that you
being
ever heard.
advanced.
Yeah. Talk about real forgiveness.
Talk about real forgiveness.
Talk about killing people with kindness.
Here's one of the things I wonder, just as an analyst, sometimes people kind of project their experience with a parent onto God. So if they had a punitive relationship with a parent, they assume that God also assumes that role. Have you found that to be?
I've found it. They project parents. They project mean principals. They project bosses. They project spouses that left them. I think that oftentimes we take the failures of this world and project them onto God. And it's a scary thing to do. And that's honest. Like what you're talking about right now is when I really talk to people is where so many people find themselves. It's not actually they don't believe. It's that they have this wrong filter and picture of who God is. And because of that, whatever failure they encountered with human beings, they've now attributed that to God. And that's how they relate to God. And that's why you got to change the viewpoint, I think, altogether and go, where are you getting your viewpoint? What is the image you have of God? Because it really does matter.
And certainly this book can help people rethink how they think
hope
about
so.
Jesus and God in general, and develop hopefully a more loving relationship and get the messages that they're supposed to get, not the wrong message, and also so they can achieve where they're meant to be. And you talk about being in an airport, and I love the kind of the message in this story. You had a special status, right?
Right.
And you were in Australia.
Yep.
Take us through that story.
So I've come close to now flying 3 million air miles. It's crazy. I fly quite a bit, getting to speak at different things and talk at different places. But typically, we just fly economy, and not against anyone who doesn't fly economy. That's just usually how we've always purchased our tickets in the past. But anyways, I was talking to a friend. He's like, "Rich, have you ever been to the Qantas first class lounge?" I was like, "Of course not. I fly economy always to Australia." He goes, No, bro. Your status, whether or not you fly in first class, gives you access to this lounge. Well, I had flown through that airport that year like 4 or 5 times, and probably a dozen times in my life, never going in this lounge. I was like, I got to check this out. And so on one particular journey, I'm back there, and in the book, I tell this whole story about finding the lounge, getting in the lounge, and what's your name? Rich. They're like checking my name. It's like, Mr. Wilkerson. We've been waiting for you. And I walk in. I'm like, everything's free, the best breakfast, Wi-Fi. They got a spa in there.
It was like heaven in
Yeah,
the
I'm
airport.
going, you know what heaven looks like? The Qantas first class lounge. But the whole thought is, man, how silly is this? All these years I've been coming through here, and I've just been sitting outside these doors. I never knew I had access. And I think once again, that's where a lot of people are at with God, that if you'd give him a shot, if you'd ask for him to reveal his presence to you, if you'd realize that you have access right where you are today. You don't have to be on the outside. God's saying, come. I don't know what some preacher or what some other place has told you about God, but I'm telling you, God loves you. God is for you. Call upon his name today, and he's going to say, you have access.
Kathy Lee Gifford, who
I love her.
I know, isn't she fantastic? I interviewed her for she was my spiritual mentor in my book, and she talked about how everybody has free access to God. So it's free. Anybody can have it at any time. And, that's also something that
The same
that
exact
you
point.
speak
She's
to.
the best. She's a hero to me.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about your church before we go into the quick 5 and get a little
I would love
personal?
to, sure, yeah. 2.5 years ago, we started a church called VU Church, really in the Wynwood area of Miami, like the Arts District.
I'm going to come visit the next time I'm in
Please
Miami.
come visit.
I'm coming.
Kathy Lee's come.
Oh,
and,
yeah?
Yep,
Okay,
she came
good.
like year 1 when we were our little middle school. But it's just been a really cool story.
Yeah.
Just had a dream. We kind of started with nothing.
Wow.
And now today, it's quite a few people. And we were in 6 services, if you can imagine. People would load in at 5:45 in the morning, Then we'd have a 9, 11, a 1, 4, 6, and 8 p.m. service all day. Then people would load out till 11 p.m. at night. It was crazy. And so recently we just acquired a new location. So now we're in 2 locations at once, back and forth. And it's just a really cool group of people that I think are on the faith journey together. It's a community of people doing life together, following Jesus to the best of our ability, but really just creating a place, I think, for us to study and discover faith together.
I think it's wonderful. And also, we are going to have a link up so people can find you and information about your church.
You're the
and
best.
Can get access to your book and just find out all about you.
You're so
and
nice.
So I know we're going to be hearing a lot more from you because you have so much to offer. We do a segment called the Quick Five.
Oh, snap.
Where
I've heard
we
about
ask
this.
some very personal
I
questions.
have heard about this.
Okay.
I have heard. I'm kidding.
When did something start out badly for you, but in the end, it was great?
I would say the journey of kids.
Yes.
Honestly, like today, if we're really being honest, I wouldn't change any of it now.
Yeah.
Now, but I think at the beginning, you know, when we were 25 years of age finding this out, we're kind of going, this is kind of a bummer. But man, one of the most beautiful things I learned about sharing our pain and going through the valley together is it makes the mountaintop that much better.
Yeah.
Because we have just felt like, in many cases, like the world has celebrated with us.
Yeah.
And it's just been such a cool thing, I think, to see God's hand in all of it.
Sure.
And to see him get glory in the midst of it. But I think that started in a way of going, this is not how I would start this story.
No.
But that's how stories work, right?
Sometimes the best stories work that way.
What's a story without a struggle?
Exactly.
You know, what's purpose without some pain?
Yeah.
What's triumph without trials?
We appreciate things that are hard won anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
and so it'll help you get through the sleepless nights, certainly in the witching hour, which I don't know if you've experienced
No, but
yet,
we
but
do
I'm
that.
sure your
He
wife
starts
has.
crying, and we're at 3 in the morning going, this is awesome. We wanted this. You know, you got to say that. You got to confess it.
Exactly. Okay. What social stigma do you think society needs to get over?
Ooh, I think comparison. I think when it comes to this Instagram world, which I'm not hating on Instagram, I love it. It's a tool.
Yeah.
But come on, man. Like,
I kind of like it too.
this is like.
And I'm all for Photoshop, by the way.
But that's what I'm trying. And I go for it. It's fun. But you got to know it's not real. And I think there's a whole generation of people right now that are living their life. Comparison kills your contentment.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are watching things through these little filters and going, why is my life not like that? And you're just going, if you could just realize that this is just all projection and people are sharing their highlight reel. No one's sharing, like, you know, the bad stuff. Hey, I got fired today. Like, yeah, hashtag that. Like, you don't do that, you know?
That'll probably be a very popular person that highlights all the negative stuff.
So I think the social stigma right now is that we live in a world where people are present but they're not engaged, and a lot of it comes from this FOMO of going, fear of missing out and missing out on where you are the whole time.
Right.
It's like you need to own the moment of where you are.
I agree. What are you interested in that most people are not?
What am I interested in that most people are not? Well, I'm very, very interested in the life of Jesus. I think people are interested in that, so maybe that one doesn't count. Recently, I picked up working out on other levels, so I'm really, really interested right now in different workouts. I think other people are interested in that. What am I interested in that nobody else is interested in? I love documentaries. I feel like I need to get some new. What's one for you?
Oh, God.
Give me something like that.
Well, I'm a little obsessed with jewelry.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, I know
people
I have
love
a
it?
lot of company, but yeah, I think it's an obsession.
Oh,
Like,
man, what
there's
else?
never enough. I think I need to pray on that.
You know what my problem is that I go through.
You'll help me
I
pray on that
go
one.
through hobbies. Like I'm a weird, like addictive personality. Where like, okay, I'm into cycling this month. Now, right now I'm into paddle tennis. You ever heard of paddle tennis?
Yes.
Paddle tennis.
Yeah.
It's like this sport that's blowing up in Spain. I'm really into it right now.
Wow.
So I feel like, but how long will it last? You got to pray for me.
I guess I'll pray for you
Yeah.
too. We'll pray for each other.
We're
How about
gonna
that?
do that.
Okay. Did I ask you this? No. What's some insider knowledge that only people in your line of work have?
I think sometimes people think that like pastors and preachers and church people and Christians are perfect. And I think I can tell you from behind the curtain that they're not. They're regular people. And they need grace just like everyone else does. And they need prayers just like everyone else does. And they need
you're
counseling just like everyone else does. And they
Yeah.
need help just like we're just regular people. I think sometimes there can be this facade, this idea because you preach on a platform or open God's word that your life is more perfect. It's
You
just
get
not true.
idealized, and I
Yeah.
think that's a pressure that
Yeah.
can be challenging. What is the best thing that's happened to you today?
Oh, come on. This is so easy. My son turned 7 weeks today, and
Oh
I have a
my
book
goodness.
out today.
Oh my God,
This is
such
the
great
best
timing.
Tuesday ever.
Well,
Tackle Tuesday.
You in addition to being a great talent, are a fabulous writer. Really, and this is a great book for everybody. I highly recommend it. We will have a link up so you can find it, buy it, read it, and hopefully it'll be life-changing, because I know that that's your intention, or at least I think it is.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you
Come
for having
back and
me.
visit anytime.
Please, I'm coming back for sure.
All right.
You're the best.
And thanks for joining us on Talking Live. We'll see you soon.